Dr. Mara Lorne never thought of herself as someone important. She liked quiet places, small laboratories, and shelves full of alien plants that glowed, twitched, or hummed when she watered them. Her world was science calm, patient, predictable. And that was exactly why she loved her job on the frontier station *9. It was far away from noisy crowds, far from politics, and far from anything that demanded she speak loudly. But *9 was also where many species passed through, including the Valorians' towering warriors known across the galaxy for their strength, discipline, and strict emotional control. Humans often found them intimidating. Mara found them tall, and very serious. She tried to stay out of their way. On a bright morning cycle, she carried a tray of xenoblooms to the analysis room. The tray was so full that she could barely see over the top of it. Each plant pulsed with soft blue or pink light, and she hummed to herself as she tried to keep them balanced. Room 22B, I think, she muttered. She walked through the sliding door without looking up, only to freeze mid-step. It was not the lab. Instead, she had walked into a large chamber full of Valorian soldiers in dark armor that shimmered like black glass. They stood in strict formation, surrounding a giant holographic map that showed border lines and enemy ship signatures. In the center stood Commander Varix, taller, broader, and even more intense-looking than the rest. Every Valorian head turned toward her at once. Mara blinked. The tray wobbled. "Oh, this is not 22B. For a moment, there was complete silence. Valorians did not often get interrupted, especially not during a briefing, and definitely not by a small human holding glowing flowers. One soldier took a step toward her. "Civilian, this area is restricted." Yes, I see that," Mara said quickly. "Very restricted." "Sorry. I must have turned left instead of right. Or right instead of... well, wrong. Is there a table? I'm about to drop these." She squeezed past the nearest Valorian and set her tray on the map table's edge right next to a holographic warfront. The alien plants pulsed happily. Dozens of towering warriors stared. She smiled politely, then backed toward the door. Varix's voice, deep and calm, echoed through the room. "You are Dr. Mara Lorne, xenobiologist." Mara stopped. "Yes. How do you know?" "You submitted 15 requests for additional greenhouse space this month," Varix replied. "The council asked me to review them." "Oh." She blinked. "Sorry about that." "It is not a problem," he said, though his voice held the faintest hint of confusion. Humans rarely walked into Valorian strategy meetings, and no human had ever treated the room like an accidental storage shelf. "You may proceed to your work," Varix said at last. She nodded, scooped up the plants again, and backed out of the room without further incident. The door closed behind her, and for the first time in weeks, the Valorian formation was not perfectly still. Several warriors shifted. A few exchanged glances. Varix's eyes stayed on the door long after she left. Something about the human was different. 2 hours later, the containment alarm sounded. Mara was in the greenhouse, checking the pH levels of a new vine specimen, when she heard the sharp metallic ring and the announcement, "Containment breach in Sector D4. All personnel evacuate immediately." She looked around. Sector D4 was the bio-storage wing very close to her greenhouse. She grabbed her tablet and ran. The corridor lights flashed bright red. Humans hurried toward the emergency exits, but Valorians ran in the opposite direction toward the danger. That was their way. When Mara reached the turn into D4, she smelled the breach, sweet, sharp, almost metallic. Alien spores. A stasis pod must have cracked open. She took a deep breath and covered her nose with her sleeve. She had studied these spores. They weren't deadly, but they were unpredictable. They could cause paralysis in some species, hallucinations in others. There was no way to know until the analysis finished. But someone was still inside the corridor. A dark shape stood at the far end, half covered in drifting silver spores. Tall, armored, Commander Varix. "Commander," she called, "you need to get out." Varix didn't move. His suit protected him, but the air filters had a limit. He turned his head slightly. The breach must be contained. Others are evacuating. You can't contain it alone, Mara said. And the spores are mutating. The silver dust curled around the lights like tiny living clouds. Mara didn't stop to think. She never did when someone needed help. She marched straight through the drifting spores until she reached him. Varric stared down at her, surprised. Dr. Lorne, this area is unsafe for humans. So is staying here, she said. Come on. She grabbed his gauntleted wrist and tugged. She expected him not to move. He was a Valorian commander strong enough to lift an armored pod with one arm. Her pull should have been like a breeze against a mountain. But Varric stepped forward, then another step. She guided him out of the corridor and into the clean air chamber. The filters activated with a soft hum, pulling spores from their clothes and the air around them. A mechanical door slid shut behind them with a heavy clang. Only then did she release his wrist. Varric looked at her hand as if it were something rare, something unexpected. You should not have risked exposure. It wasn't a risk, Mara said. I know these spores. I helped catalog them last week. They can cause dizziness or slow reaction time, but they don't harm humans much. You came into the contaminated zone regardless. Someone had to pull you out. I did not require assistance. Mara shrugged. Maybe not. But you were still standing there, and it looked like you needed a nudge. Varric's head tilted slightly. A small, sharp motion, almost like confusion. You entered a hazardous zone. To give a nudge. Yes, you are a strange human. I get that a lot, she said easily. As the chamber finished its filtration cycle, Varric studied her closely. Valorians were experts at reading body language patterns of fear, intimidation, ambition. Humans usually showed those emotions clearly, but Mara showed none. No fear of him, no awe, no desire to impress. She simply existed calm, focused, and sincere. And something about that unsettled him. Thank you, he said at last, his voice low, as though he was unused to the word. She smiled. You're welcome. The rest of the day passed quickly. Mara filed her contamination report, checked her plants, and organized samples for the next cycle. She didn't think about Varric again. To her, the incident wasn't a big deal. Anyone would have done it. But in the Valorian command quarters, the story was different. Varric sat alone at his desk, reviewing the footage of the breach. The cameras showed Mara entering the spore-filled corridor without hesitation. They showed her reaching him, pulling him back, and standing between him and the breach, as though she were the one protecting him. She was small, fragile by Valorian standards, unarmed, and completely fearless. He replayed the moment she tugged on his wrist. Such a small gesture. No force, no command. Just simple human insistence. No one had ever touched him like that before. It should have irritated him. It should have been disrespectful. But instead, he felt something he had no name for. Something warm. Something curious. Something that pulled at him like gravity. He closed the file slowly. Humans were unpredictable. He had known that for years. But this human, this Dr. Mara Lorne, she was something else. Something he could not categorize. Something he could not ignore. Something that made him feel, not react, not analyze, but truly feel. And that was dangerous, because Valorians did not feel. At least, they weren't supposed to. He leaned back in his chair, his mind replaying her calm voice in the spore chamber. Come on. Such simple words. But somehow, they echoed. And that was when Varric realized an unexpected truth. This human, quiet, ordinary, unassuming, had become impossible to overlook, without trying, without knowing, simply by being herself. And that was the beginning of everything. The next few days on Asterix 9 passed with unusual tension. The containment breach had been controlled. But rumors spread quickly. Everyone was talking about the same thing. A human scientist saved Commander Varric. Mara had no idea. She simply went back to her plants, her samples, and her quiet routines. But Varric was different. He found himself wondering what she was doing at random moments. Was she organizing her xenoblooms again? studying spore patterns, talking to whoever walked by with that calm, honest voice. His second-in-command, a Valorian named Saren, noticed first. "Commander," Saren said as they reviewed patrol reports, "you have read the same line 5 times. Varix blinked. He had. That was not normal. Humans. He had studied thousands before, but he had never met one like her. Nothing about Mara made sense. And because nothing made sense, he began to investigate. Not in a dramatic way, no spying, no secret missions. He simply observed, quietly, from a distance. Or so he thought. Mara first noticed him standing outside the greenhouse door. He wasn't hiding. Valorians didn't hide. He stood perfectly straight, hands behind his back, staring through the glass like a giant, armored guardian statue. She waved. "Need something?" Varix stepped inside. "I am here for official partnership protocols." "What protocols?" "Joint scientific strategic cooperation." She blinked at him. "What does that mean?" "It means you and I will be working together." "Oh," she said. "Did the council approve that?" "No," Varix answered. "Did anyone approve that?" "No." "Then why are we working together?" "Because I requested it." Mara stared at him for a long moment. Why would a Valorian commander want to work with a human plant scientist? Varix opened his mouth, closed it, opened it again. "I am still calculating that answer," he said finally. Mara laughed softly. She didn't mean to. It just slipped out. Varix didn't react outwardly, but he felt the sound in his chest warm, light, and confusing. "All right," she said. "What do we do first?" Their first joint task arrived faster than either expected. A high-priority meeting was called, one involving 5 intelligent species, each with their own culture, rules, and tempers. The topic: a mysterious anomaly growing at the edge of known space. The anomaly sent energy waves that scrambled sensors, confused AI systems, and caused ships to drift off course. Many species feared it. Others wanted to weaponize it. The room was full of tension before the meeting even started. Varix stood at the front, silent and tall, while Mara sat beside him with her tablet, trying not to attract attention. But people noticed her anyway. Humans were not usually invited to meetings like this. The discussion began, loud and chaotic. "We must avoid the anomaly. We must study it. It is dangerous. It could be valuable." Mara listened for a few minutes. Then she raised her hand politely, like she was in a school classroom. No one noticed. So she stood. "Excuse me," she said. "Can everyone stop yelling? You're giving me a headache." Silence. Absolute silence. 10 alien officers stared at her with shock. Varix stared too. Though his expression didn't change, Mara cleared her throat. "Thank you. Now, instead of shouting, can we list the facts first? Arguing won't tell us anything." The Calorian admiral frowned. "Human, this is not a place for—" "She has the floor," Varix said quietly. Every voice in the room went silent again. Varix rarely used his authority. When he did, no one challenged him. Mara held up her tablet. "I've been studying the spore waves from the breach last week, and I found something interesting. Their pattern is similar to the energy waves from the anomaly. Energy waves." The room shifted. Shoulders relaxed. Eyes turned curious. She continued. "If we compare the frequencies, we might understand what the anomaly wants or needs." A Rhinari diplomat tilted his head. "Wants? Needs? It is not alive." Mara shrugged. "Maybe. Maybe not. But the energy pattern acts like a biological signal. If we ignore that, we're ignoring the most obvious clue." The room fell into thoughtful silence. For the rest of the meeting, people listened, really listened. And for the first time, Mara realized she wasn't nervous. She was just being herself, plain, honest, curious. When the meeting ended, the multi-race council actually thanked her. Even the Calorian admiral who had snapped at her earlier. As they walked out, Varix matched her steps. "You changed the entire meeting," he said. "No," Mara said. "I just told people to stop yelling. That is exactly what changed it." Mara laughed again. "Well, then they should hold meetings in the greenhouse. Plants don't yell." Varix looked down at her. "Your methods are Unexpected. Is that good or bad? It is confusing, he admitted. Over the next cycle, they worked side by side every day, not always talking, not always agreeing, but always understanding each other in small, surprising ways. Mara explained scientific details in simple words. Varix listened, memorized, and occasionally asked questions so deep that she had to rethink her own theories. When Mara got excited about a discovery, Varix felt something inside him stir a warmth he didn't recognize. When Varix explained Valorian strategy, Mara asked questions no one had ever asked him before. Soft, curious, human questions. And Varix realized something he had never noticed. No one had ever asked him questions because they cared about the answer, only because they needed it. Mara cared simply because she wanted to understand. That was new, unusual, strange. He found himself wanting to explain more than necessary. He found himself wanting her to keep asking. And he found himself wanting to understand her. Their partnership was tested when they were assigned to a small research ship to approach the anomaly's edge. Only a minimal crew went with them. It was a risky mission. Inside the ship, as the anomaly glowed outside like a swirling cosmic storm, Mara pressed her face to the window in awe. "It's beautiful," she whispered. Varix stared at her instead of the anomaly. Humans saw beauty everywhere. Even in danger. Even in things that looked chaotic or strange. He wondered if she saw beauty in him too. The ship shook suddenly. "Energy wave incoming," the pilot called. The lights flickered. The engines whined. Panels sparked. Mara grabbed the nearest railing, and Varix grabbed her arm in one swift motion, steadying her before she could fall. Her heart raced. "Thank you." Varix didn't release her. His hand tightened slightly, protective by instinct. "We need to stabilize the shield," she said. "I will handle the structural field. You handle the energy reading." They moved in sync. Mara shouted readings. Varix redirected power flows with precise movements. The ship groaned but held together. Another wave hit this one even stronger. A glowing fragment cracked off the anomaly and burst toward them. The pilot yelled. Mara's mind raced. "It's matching temperature shifts. If we make the hull colder, it won't collide." Varix didn't question her. He slammed his hand onto the control interface and forced maximum coolant release. The hull frosted over with glowing blue ice. The energy fragment skimmed the ship, then drifted away harmlessly. Silence fell. The crew gasped. Mara exhaled. Varix lowered his arm, still standing between her and the window like a shield. "You saved us," she said softly. "No," Varix replied. "We saved the ship together." Mara smiled, breathless. "I guess we make a good team." Varix studied her expression, bright, brave, full of wonder. "You are unlike any human I have ever encountered," he said. "I could say the same about you," she replied. Varix felt something shift in his chest again. Warm, strange, steady, something he had no word for. But he knew one thing. This human was no longer just interesting. She was important. And not because she tried to be, but because she simply existed kind, curious, fearless in her own quiet way. Without even trying, she was changing him. And that terrified him more than any anomaly in the universe. The research ship returned to Asterix 9 inches 1 piece. But the anomaly did not stop growing. Every hour, new signals appeared on sensors, stronger, louder, more complex. Entire fleets reported strange energy waves affecting their systems. Many feared it was the beginning of a cosmic disaster. Mara studied the signals day and night. Varix stayed close, observing, listening, offering help in his calm, steady way. He didn't always understand the science, but he understood her focus and her exhaustion. One morning, after a long night of analyzing readings, Mara fell asleep on her desk. When she woke, she found a blanket draped over her shoulders. It was far too large for her. She looked around the empty room and smiled softly. "Varix," she whispered. A meeting was called, this time larger, with almost every species sending a representative. The anomaly had grown wide enough to touch 3 trade routes, and was releasing energy bursts that bent space. Some feared war. Others wanted to fire weapons at it. Mara sat in the middle of the room, small among so many towering figures. But she held her ground. She presented her findings. The anomaly is not a weapon, she said calmly. It's not an attack. It's something alive. Or it's trying to become alive. A few delegates scoffed. Others leaned forward in interest. Varric stood behind her like a silent tower, watching every reaction. Mara continued. It's reacting to signals from ships. It's copying our energy patterns, like it's trying to communicate. But our ships are too advanced and too noisy for it to understand. A Calorian general crossed his arms. Then what do you suggest, human? Whisper to it. Yes, Mara said simply. The room fell silent. She explained. Humans have emotional resonance patterns in our brain waves. They're messy, irregular, and not like any other species. But the anomaly reacts to messy signals. I believe it responds best to human emotion. A dozen alien leaders stared. You think a human can talk to the anomaly? Someone asked. Mara nodded. Not with words. With presence. With emotion. With calmness. It is too dangerous, another delegate argued. If no one enters it, she said, it will grow until it destroys everything by accident. It isn't trying to hurt us. It just doesn't know how to exist. Varric stepped forward. I will accompany her. Every head turned. The Calorian general glared. Commander, your species forbids emotional contact with anomalies. I am aware, Varric replied. But my calculations are clear. If anyone must go with her, it is me. Mara looked up at him, surprised. Varric, you don't have to. I will go, he said firmly, leaving no room for argument. She held his gaze. For a moment, both forgot the room full of leaders around them. Finally, the council approved the mission, with heavy reluctance. They boarded a small exploration vessel with a minimal crew, just Varric, Mara, and 3 trained pilots. The ship was small enough to stay agile near the anomaly, and strong enough to keep them alive. When they neared the anomaly, it filled their view like a glowing cosmic storm, swirling waves of violet, silver, and blue, shifting like the breath of a sleeping giant. It's beautiful, Mara whispered again. Varric looked at her instead of the anomaly, just like before. She pressed her hand against the glass. We need to go inside the outer layer. Entering now. The pilot confirmed. The ship glided into the anomaly's edge, and the world outside changed instantly. Colors twisted, lights shimmered. Time seemed to stretch. The sensors beeped wildly. It's reacting to us, Mara said, checking her readings. Not hostile. Just curious. Another wave hit them gentle, like a soft push. Mara took a deep breath. Varric, open the observation window. That will expose us, he warned. Not fully. Just enough for the anomaly to sense us. He obeyed without hesitation. The window slid open, leaving only a thin energy barrier between them and the swirling cosmic life form outside. Mara closed her eyes. She slowed her breathing. She let her thoughts drift calm, peaceful, steady. The anomaly shifted shape. It drew closer. A wave of light moved toward the window, glowing with silver warmth. It's responding, she whispered. Varric watched her with focused attention. He felt something shift inside him again, an instinct, not of danger, but of awe. You are doing something no one has done before, he said quietly. I'm not doing anything, she replied. I'm just here. The anomaly flickered, but then the ship trembled. A sudden energy spike erupted from deep inside the anomaly. The pilots yelled warnings. The hull groaned. It's unstable, one pilot shouted. Mara's heart raced. It's scared, she said. It doesn't understand us. Another spike hit. Sparks flew. The floor shook. Varric stepped forward, shielding her instinctively. His voice was firm but calm. Then show it what you want it to feel. She looked up at him, eyes wide. What do I feel? Varric stared at her. And for the first time in his life, he spoke from pure truth. Hope. Her breath caught, not from fear, but from something warmer. She turned toward the window again, closed her eyes, and let her emotions flow, not fear, not confusion, but calm hope. Gentle. Soft. Human. The lights outside shifted. The anomaly slowed. The spikes decreased. It's working, Varric said softly, but Mara didn't stop. She continued to breathe slowly, her heart steady, her thoughts open. She thought about life, curiosity, discovery, connection, about how living things could be misunderstood, but still worth understanding. The anomaly pulsed once, twice. Then it released a wave of light, bright, warm, peaceful. The entire ship glowed. Sensors stabilized. The shaking stopped. The colors outside softened. It's communicating, Mara said. It understands. She gently placed her hand on the barrier. The anomaly mirrored the gesture with a shimmering ripple of light. It's telling us it doesn't want to harm the galaxy, she said. It was just waking up. Lost. Confused. Now it knows we're alive, and it doesn't want to hurt us. The anomaly slowly contracted, folding into itself like a star going to sleep. Its dangerous energy waves faded. Its shape stabilized. It was no longer a threat. It was alive, aware, peaceful. The pilots gasped. Varric stood still, watching everything with silent pride. Mara's voice softened. It's safe now. The ship turned back toward Asterix 9. News traveled fast. Dr. Mara Lorne, the quiet human xenobiologist, had communicated with a cosmic life form and prevented a galaxy-wide disaster. Entire species honored her. Messages flooded in, thanks, offers, awards. She was named First Contact, Diplomat of Life Beyond Form by the Renari, Guardian of the Unknown by the Calorians, and Peace Speaker by the Valorians. Mara felt overwhelmed. She hadn't meant to become famous. She had just done what felt right. Varric visited her the next morning. He entered her greenhouse quietly, but she noticed him instantly. You did something extraordinary, he said. I wasn't trying to, she replied. That is why it was extraordinary. She looked up at him, studying the warrior who had stood beside her through danger and uncertainty. You changed too, she said gently. Varric did not deny it. Yes. Because of you, her cheeks warmed. I didn't try to change you. I know, he said. You changed me simply by being who you are. Mara smiled softly. Varric stepped closer, still careful, still steady, still himself. For Valorians, he said, there is no greater honor than to meet someone who alters your path without force. Someone who becomes important without trying. She looked at him with warm, honest eyes. You became important to me too, you know. Varric paused. A rare stillness came over him, deep and full. In that moment, he finally understood. Humanity's strength was not in power, size, or technology. It was in heart, in sincerity, in simple emotional courage. Mara Lorne had shown him all of that without effort, without intention, without changing anything about herself. She became his everything simply by being exactly who she was, and he knew she would be remembered across the stars as the human who taught a universe how to feel.